And we are live again. Strange Journeys is back on live stream on Facebook and on YouTube. And I appreciate you being here. We're getting more viewers every minute, and we certainly appreciate that. My lovely wife, Lynn, is not able to be with us today. She's sick, but she is watching. But I am Tom, your ghost host for this strange journey today into the Bridges of Sorrows. I'm starting to get my orientation right. My lower left is Tim Shepard, one of our ETs. And over to my left is Wil Elrick. Wil Elrick hails from Guntersville in the northeastern part of Alabama. He is a writer and a weirdologist who loves telling stories, whether as a tour guide to historic Huntsville or with friends around a campfire. He can often be found off the beaten path, researching historical, weird, or unusual tales. From time to time, he can even be found participating in a ghost investigation, a Bigfoot hunt, or a search for buried treasure. How cool is that? He previously co-authored the books Alabama Scoundrels, Outlaws, Pirates, Bushwhackers, and Bandits, and covered Bridges of Alabama. And his latest book is Alabama Lore, which is available on Amazon. I just got my copy this week. And down right, where's my... Hello, me. Our returning special guest, Louis O. Powell IV. And I got it right this time. I have been known to call him Junior or the third or whatever. But Louis is the founder and writer of the Southern Spirit Guide.org blog. I was going to get that up there for you, man. I didn't misspell it, did I?
Thank you. It looks right.
Okay. Louis is also the author of Southern Spirit Guide's Haunted Alabama, which I could have swore I had a copy, but I couldn't find it, so I just ended up buying another one, Louis. So,
well, thank you. Books I have that I knew I had a copy of and had to rebuy.
I'm sure. Tim?
I do that all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure Tim has too. But anyway, Louis also is the tour guide for Strange LaGrange. Now, don't you just love the name of that tour? I do. Anyway, Strange LaGrange. This is Louis's fourth appearance on the show. I wish I had something to shoot confetti up or whatever.
But... He's been here more than some of our ETs.
Oh, sad but true. Sad but true.
I'm getting great from the side over here, but my camera position.
Woohoo! I thought you were just doing a little dance for everybody here. You know,
nobody wants to see that. I promise you.
Thank you. But Louis was with us first to talk about his Southern Spirit Guide. I think you were on like show 3 early in
yes.
Our first one of our first few shows, and then you came back to talk about the haunted theaters And then in our season 1 look back, you were with us on that as well. We got a couple of comments. I mentioned my wife was out sick. She did say she was watching. She said, "Hey, everybody."
I hope she gets feeling better.
Well, thank you. She
All
is
right.
watching. And we got a new subscriber on YouTube, a friend of Will's, Lee Peacock. He's watching from the ambulance station in beautiful Evergreen, Alabama, about a quarter mile from Murder Creek. Now,
I'm going to give a shout out to Evergreen. For those that don't know, Evergreen, Alabama is the Bigfoot capital of Alabama.
I knew that's where you were going.
Lee Peacock.
Yeah. Oh, parts. Okay.
And Lee Peacock is a great blogger.
Yes, he is. He's a great guy, too.
And he just subscribed to our show. How cool is that?
Right.
What is the name of that documentary on Prime? I was trying to think of it last week about Evergreen.
Oh, Town That Loved Bigfoot.
Yeah, I've watched that a couple of times. That is so cool.
I watched it right after it premiered, just so I could send Lee a text message and say, "I saw you on TV."
Cool. And Lee said he needs to get a copy of Lewis's book.
And,
Cool.
and I used your blog for the book.
Oh,
So I should just send you a free copy.
there you go.
But when you do Bigfoot, you need to have Lee on as a guest.
There we go. We will.
Right.
Lee, you hear that? We were trying to do a show about Bigfoot, some lesser known sightings last season, and it ended up being just me and Tim. Our special guest was oh crap, my mind's going blank now. He's got Alabama Bigfoot and Paranormal. Jonathan Odom. And he had a family emergency come up just before the show and wasn't able to be with us. So we'll have to get Jonathan Odom and Lee Peacock on at the same time talking about some of these so that we can cover Bigfoot really well. Tim and I had fun just going over the new version of the Patterson Gimlin film.
Right.
Where they slowed it down and stabilized it. And we must have watched that thing 4 or 5 times during the show going back over.
At least. And it's like, wait, go back. We got to check this part out.
Right. I think we were doing it just to fill time. So,
Right.
all right. We tried to start the show with ET facts for our executive team. You know, we call our ETs. And this week we were doing, and we always include our special guest on whatever we do on the show. This ET facts is, what are you reading, researching? Tim, I know you said there were several.
I've got 4 that I'm doing currently. Actually, I just finished one like 5 minutes before the show, and that is The Grim Sleeper, the true crime book about the serial killer from the 1978 all the way through early 2000 in South Central LA. So yeah, it's a brutal book. I mean, it was really well done. I'm reading 2 books about William Quantrill at the moment from 2 very different sides. Of course, I'm working on my own book still, or rewriting it after the computer crash and the loss of an entire book.
Yeah,
a few years worth of writing.
Y'all didn't hear about that. He was almost finished with his Quatrill Raiders book and his computer Quatrill. I can't ever get it right. And his computer crashed. All his research, and they only, what you had the intro, which you'd sent me a copy of, which I never got through and got back to you, but I think that's all he had left was that.
Right, yeah. A little bit of editing and it would have been good, and I was like, no.
Oh, God. So, all right.
And then I've got Jim Butcher's most recent book. So, no. And then I've got Jim Butcher, who does supernatural fantasy. I've got his most recent book.
How far into it are you?
I am about halfway through. And after, because you've got the one where he brings in the new storyline where it was like, why didn't you just make it all one book?
Yeah, when Battlegrounds ends, your jaw will drop.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Cool.
That's good to hear.
Before we get to Lewis, Al Luna has chimed in. Hi, Tom and crew. Can you take any of our 14 inches of snow? The answer is no.
No.
I'm in North Alabama. We still have 4 inches of snow on the ground here where I am.
Oh God! Oh Lord!
We just got lots of rain here in West Georgia.
Yeah.
And really wish we had snow.
Oh,
Well, it's
okay.
We got 3 or 4 inches, but it's almost gone. So
The Huntsville
Mm.
Metro, Huntsville the set itself got no snow, but north of the city, we got tons of it. So,
Wow. All right, Lewis. What are you researching right now?
I have been looking into haunted jails and prisons recently.
Ooh.
So I've gone from theaters to jails, and I may end up getting back to roads and bridges eventually after this show.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
if you want an interesting haunted jail, I can tell you a story from Marshall County Jail in Alabama when I worked there.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
So
That would be
we
cool.
need to hook up after this too, because I've also got a haunted theater story that will blow your mind.
Good.
Okay, fabulous.
Yeah. Well, we ran out of time. I say we ran out of time. We always go, an hour and a half to 2 hours, but we have to cut it off somewhere. And we left a lot of stories on the table, Will. So we'll probably be revisiting the haunted theaters and bring you back on with that as well. All right, Will, what are you digging into right now?
Well, I am actually Kelly Kasich, my wife and I, that you're going to mention when the show gets rolling into the topic.
Oh, you can mention her now. It's okay.
She and I are actually co-researching a book about the Hart brothers, the first serial killers in the United States.
Oh.
And then on a personal level, I am rereading 7 Years in Tibet, which is one of my favorite adventure books. And also Scooby-Doo and the Apocalypse, the comic.
Okay. All right. It's good to be eclectic. Okay.
Yes, it is.
Well, I am rereading again, Mobile Goes to Alabama's Haunted Port City by Elizabeth Parker. She was our guest, our first show of the second season on fairy tales.
I have a copy of that also.
Sure you do. And she was a lot of fun as a guest and very knowledgeable about fairies. She didn't think she would be, but my goodness, she educated us. But anyway, we're going to be having her back on a few shows down the road where we talk about her books. So I'm rereading all of her books to get ready for that. She'll be back in 2 weeks for our Leprechaun show, Fairy Tales 2.
Mobile Leprechaun.
And, okay, don't tell anybody, but normally on my tours, I'd tell it, no, we're not. No, we're not doing the Mobile Leprechaun. I'm sorry. No, we're not going to talk about the Mobile Leprechaun. But for fun, I may just bring it up next show and play the video. Have you seen the video where they put music to it? I may just have to play that one. That is hilarious. I'm going to go
I just think of the
day.
wonderful picture on notebook paper and
oh yeah, the witness sketch, the witness sketch. All right, just so you know, we provide these shows first and foremost for your entertainment. Those of you that are watching, is for you. We are not by any means and do not claim to be scholars or experts in any of the topics we cover, except for Will and Lewis. They're the experts this week. We are simply
throwing that word around kind of loosely there.
We are simply enthusiasts and storytellers. We have fun with the topics, but we also respect your beliefs. If you have a belief that's a little out there and strange for most folks, we're not going to make fun of it. We're going to just accept you for who you are. Now, who caught last show? Last time on Strange Journeys, what were some takeaways from that show? Lewis, I know you sat there and watched the whole time, and I appreciate that.
it was just fascinating hearing more about the ley lines. And it's a topic I have tried to kind of research, but it's a matter of finding out those really those books that can be believed rather than all the other trash that's out there on Amazon.
Right. Well, Tim, you're muted.
I must have done that by accident or something, where I'm over here hitting things that I shouldn't be. Who knows? To me, just the areas that the ley lines flow through just amazes me. How much is going on with
Right.
those areas.
Well, exactly. And the rabbit trails. Oh my God. As I was researching this, I was like, oh my God, why did I do this?
Right.
Because it's like everything paranormal can be attached and related to ley lines, even some things that are not paranormal, like the bees. I never knew that about the bees, how bees are more productive on ley lines and they follow ley lines as they're getting their pollen. And I mean, the one lady that had tried her bee boxes one season and didn't do anything, and she basically lost all her money. Somebody told her about ley lines. They got out the dowsing rods. They found the ley lines on her property. And so she moved her boxes to the ley lines the next season. And within 2 months, they had expanded to 4 boxes, and it kept expanding so much that season that they run out of material. And I was like, oh my God. And then, of course, Julianne Gordon was an amazing, amazing guest, telling about the 20 years she spent in a home that was directly on a ley line. And the sightings that she had, the anomalies, the cold and hot spots, the electromagnetic magnetic activity where electronics wouldn't work, take them somewhere else and they would work perfectly. Batteries would drain. Just some wild things. And Julie is the film commissioner for Panama City and Bay County. So anything that's going in there to film or whatever, she's involved in it. So, all right. If you're watching on YouTube, we want you to know we thank you so much. So please remember to subscribe like Lee did earlier. Thank you so much, Lee. And share the videos, like the videos, all the stuff that goes along with that. And also, if you could help us do what we do, we'd certainly appreciate it. And you can join for as little as $3 a month, and you get a sticker in a few months. And there's a new level we added where it's more money per month, but you get sticker, mugs, shirts. I mean, just get more swag. And Greg, one of our regular watchers, is back. Hey, Greg, how you doing? Everybody say, hey, Greg.
Hi, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
He's ready for some good stories. We're going to be those stories in just a few minutes, Greg. Thank you for being here.
Do we know where Greg's watching from?
Oh, good question. Greg, where are you watching from? Let us know. All right. Remember, I'll share this with you, our Strange Journeys stuff, where you can buy all things Strange Journeys branded merch. If you're in our Facebook group, Strange Friends, you have that logo. And it's on Teespring. And, of course, our Valentine's line that we did. I may look normal, but my heart belongs to Nessie. Will, what were you telling us before the show started about your ancestral home?
So there's not a lot of Elricks in the world. And the original Elrick Manor in Scotland, got purchased and it's turned into a bed and breakfast. But they also have a gin distillery there called Elrick Gin. But it is made with water taken from Loch Ness. Sadly,
Wow.
it's not available and you can't ship it to the United States yet.
Oh no.
COVID put their travel restrictions on the people that were going to bring it back for me. So I'm hoping to get something for a taste test pretty soon.
There you go. Awesome. All right. Greg is watching from Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland.
The statue in the cemetery there of the Crying Reaper.
Wow. Wow. A couple of our ETs are from Ohio. Well, no, just one. Andrea is from Ohio, and our good friend Al that chimed in a while ago is from Ohio, and he has a paranormal spirit encounter investigations there. He's been on the show a couple of times. Will, you've got somebody saying, hey.
Hey, I remember her from way back, and she's another one from Gunnersville.
Excellent. Well, my wife mentioned this in the comments earlier, and I mentioned it to you, Will. We're going to be vacationing on Lake Gunnersville in June, a family vacation. So you won't see us for about a month. Vacation won't last that long. I wish it could, but we're taking some time off before vacation and after before we pick back
if you
up
want to
the
list
shows.
haunted places to visit while you're there.
Oh, that would be awesome. Thank you. All right, our strange sightings this week. Now, we've used sightings from the New York Post before. Now, who knows how reputable they are? They can be questionable at times. But this was just something they were reporting. Let me see what you think about this.
Gary, what is that? Holy crap! Gary, what is that? What is that?
Thoughts? It didn't look like a ship to me, a craft.
The only thing I thought it was amusing was the line about customer service.
Yeah. Exactly.
I hate to be the center here, but nothing about that video looks like it was not shot on a green screen.
Could be. Could be. It didn't look like a craft to me. It's just like a smudge almost. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like a cloud anomaly or something, but green screen could possibly be it.
And I thought it was strange that the lines of smoke or whatever coming from it tended to shift with the craft.
Right. Well, like I said, New York Post, it was a strange video, so it fit our criteria. But we've debunked them on here before, so I'm not.
When I first saw it, I'm thinking they're taking a picture of a whale's fin, from the shore or something. So I'm like, what is that?
Yeah. Well, like I said, it was strange, so it fit the criteria. But it just something looks a little off. I didn't want to do a UFO sighting because we had such a spectacular one a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, I thought that was just a strange cloud anomaly, or it could be green screen. It could be. It's New York Post. So, all right, ready to talk about Bridges of Sorrows. She huddles the small bundle to her chest, ever tighter with each step. She rushes, almost running down the narrow dirt road, casting furtive, sidelong glances behind her every few steps. The sounds of her pursuers are still just mumbles in the distance as she approaches the old wooden bridge. Covered in shadows, she knows she can hide in the darkness beneath that bridge and heads to the path that leads down to the river flowing to the west. And so begins the legend that has passed down for generations in just about every state in the U.S. We'll talk about some of those as well as a few other creepy haunted bridges that we've come across. Lewis and Will have stories of their own, and we'll get to those in just a moment. Now, in honor of our special guest, I pulled a few from his wife, Kelly Kazak's article at AL.com, the best-known ghost tale from each Alabama county. And the first one is Refuge Bridge. Oop, let me find that picture. Get back up here. Refuge Bridge in Clanton. Where did I put it? There it is. This isolated one-lane bridge in rural Chilton County is said to be haunted by a malevolent spirit that chases people who cross it. People claim if they get out of their cars, they hear and feel a presence beside them. Others say they have experienced their cars rocking while on the bridge. Have y'all heard that on other bridges?
Yes.
All right, this is the one we've mentioned already. Haunted Highway and Murder Creek Bridge. Now, it didn't connect, but I had put this in my notes earlier. But local writer and historian Lee Peacock, shout out to Lee again. But this is coming from
the most popular person here.
There you go. But I'm taking this from Kelly's article. Lee said the 40-mile stretch of Interstate 65 between Evergreen and Greenville is known as the Haunted Highway. The book Haunted Places, the National Directory by Dennis William Hawk claims that this section of highway is haunted by spirits of displaced Creek Indians and has resulted in an accident rate that is well above average. Murder Creek Bridge is located on this stretch. Peacock said it's the site of numerous unusual accidents over the years, including several that have resulted in fatalities and catastrophic fires. One truck driver said that he struck the bridge, listen to this, after a ghostly horse-drawn carriage crossed the interstate in front of him. Others have reported seeing large panther-like cats cross the highway in this area. Now, the big black cats in Alabama is not unusual. I've heard about that for years, so that may not be paranormal. What do you think, it will?
So, and this, the picture you showed of the bridge there was not the 65 bridge. That was the 231 bridge over Murder Creek. There's another bridge that goes over on Interstate 65.
Yeah.
So I've been down there to Murder Creek.
This one?
I've been to both of them, actually.
Oh, okay.
And it's a weird place. You would not, the belief that it was built on an Indian historic site is very high. I mean, it's just a very weird, creepy place to visit.
Wow.
In fact, it's called Murder Creek, too. I mean,
Well, yeah. That.
And I also know that that I-65 corridor is also very much rife with Bigfoot sightings. And I know Lee Peacock wrote about some couple that was driving down the road very late at night and passed one at just as they were about to emerge onto the road. They drove past this very large figure.
And was that in the movie? Because that sounds familiar.
It probably was in the movie. There were lots of mentions of Murder Creek in that movie.
Yeah.
And if you've never been there, it's a very isolated, wooded area out there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, some of that, what Lewis just said sounded very familiar to me for some reason. I mean, I've come across that either in that movie or some of my research. Kelly also mentions the Mary Daniel Bridge in Highland Home An old bridge off Mother Shed Road is known as Mary Daniel Bridge. It is named for a woman who lived in the area in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and was thought to be a witch. According to legend, she was driving her baby in a horse-drawn carriage. Here we go with the carriage again. As they crossed the bridge, the horses were spooked, and the carriage was tipped into the water below. The baby reportedly drowned and was buried not far from the bridge, and Mary survived. But when she finally reached her home and reported the accident to her husband, the man began drinking to soothe his grief, and didn't take long before he was drunk, and in his anger, he dragged his wife to the bridge and hanged her from the railing before jumping to his death. People claim to see Mary's spirit on the bridge, searching for her lost child. Some say they've seen orbs of light appear to float on the river. Now, I couldn't find pictures of the Mary Daniel Bridge. I mean, I think Kelly had a picture of the home or something related, but I was looking for pictures of the bridge. But I went on Google Earth and I found this. There were two bridges on Mother Shed Road, and that one's over Camp Creek, and this one was over Briar Branch. So I'm not sure which one it is, but there's the one over Camp Creek. Of course, these wouldn't be the same bridges. They wouldn't have lasted that long. The wooden bridges wouldn't have. They've been replaced. As you'll see, when got us, it's not really a surprise, got a special treat coming up for you closer to the end of the show. Lynn and I visited our Crybaby Bridge just last night, and I took some pictures and some different things. We're going to tell you about that. No, nothing wild and crazy happened. It was just kind of cool, and I'm going to share that with you later. All right, you can't do a study or a research on haunted bridges without coming across Crybaby Bridge. And I've highlighted a few, and Tim, I'd come across this in my research, but Tim has actually researched this one, Theorosa's Bridge. I got a couple of pictures here.
Now, Theorosa's Bridge actually sits on what they call White Woman Creek, part of the Arkansas River out in western Kansas. The bridge that you've got a picture of is the new bridge. The old bridge was built in the late 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
It actually sat to the north of the bridge that is now there. In fact, the road is still there to go to the original bridge.
Oh, wow.
What happens is that and I found documentation pointing to this, lots of legends say that it was a woman that had her baby killed right along the river there or something. But in 1867, there's a wagon master that is leading a wagon train across the Santa Fe Trail, and they get to about this particular area when they're attacked by Indians. Somehow or another, the wagon master makes it out alive. About 10 years later, he comes across a group of Osage Indians. He goes back and he tells Fort Dodge that they're actually Wichita Indians, and they're not. They're Osage that are out there, and that there's a white woman living among them as a slave, and that they need to go rescue her from the Indians. They actually attack this particular tribe right around the area where that bridge is, and they slaughter off the entire encampment. The only person that they take back is the white woman, and she recognizes this man that had reported, the wagon master, because she had survived the attack from the Indians as well, and she thinks that he had gone and got the Indians to come and attack them. The colonel at Fort Dodge would send a letter to Fort Leavenworth, where the general for the area was, asking if they could try the man for murder of the original group that had gone through. She did not stick around. She actually returned to the area of White Woman Creek, and she's seen walking along White Woman Creek still, crying and looking for her child, because she did have what she told the colonels, that she did have a child with one of the Indians, that she was married to one of the sons of the chief, and didn't know where her baby was. But when you go out there to Theorosa's Bridge, what they're talking about is that there is a wailing sound all the time. It goes on constantly, and has been going on for the better part of 100 years, even after they changed the bridges.
Wow. Well, I found this picture too. I thought it was just kind of somebody
Right.
Wanted to let you know Theorosa was
Dear
still
Rosa
here.
was here.
Yeah.
Still here. Yeah.
Still here. Just letting you know. I don't want to go into all of these. We may come back to them if we feel like it, but there's Blackstone, Virginia, Sleepy Hollow Road, Kentucky, several in Ohio. Greg, you may know of some of these. The Screaming Bridge of Maud Hughes Road, Egypt Road in Salem. And is that it in Ohio? Yeah. And then a few in Texas, and DeKalb has got Crybaby or Spook Bridge, Lufkin, Texas, Jack Creek, and Port Neches, Sarah Jane Bridge. I mean, there's Crybaby bridges everywhere. Now, I had asked Lewis and Will to come on here to talk about some of the ones they've gone over. And Lewis, share some of those you put on our list.
Well, actually, in your little introduction, talking about the woman carrying the bundle, and that reminded me of a story that I hadn't really thought about. There's a story from just outside of Conway, South Carolina, of something called the Lucas Bay Light. And a South Carolina Bay is a geographical feature that's just kind of an indention in the landscape. And this one in particular is called Lucas Bay. And the story is there was a woman living in the area during the Civil War. And at the end of the Civil War, of course, Sherman is marching his troops up from Savannah into South Carolina. And this woman began to fear for her life and the life of her infant. So she decided to take her child out to a bridge over a local creek and put the child up in the rafters underneath the bridge. And of course, she did that and then went back home. And as the soldiers are approaching, a storm came up, and she began to notice the water was rising in the area. So she fled back out. Of course, the soldiers are still approaching, and by the time she got to the creek, unfortunately, her infant had drowned. And there is still a light seen in Lucas Bay that is believed to be the spirit of this woman.
Wow. I just want a little disclaimer. The little intro thing I read after the intro to the show, I just compiled. And that's all that was. And I just made a little dramatic reading from all the different legends. So,
I mean, that was kind of spot on for the Lucas Bay line.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. What else? You'd sent me some pictures. What else do you want to share with us?
There's a place in Asheville, North Carolina that I visited several times, a place called Helen's Bridge. And Helen's Bridge is located up on Bowcatcher Mountain, and you take College Street, which starts out in downtown Asheville, and actually goes right up the mountain. And that is College Street right below this bridge. This bridge was actually built as a carriageway for an estate called Zealandia. And the estate is the main house is still there. Of course, the bridge and the carriageway have fallen into some disrepair. It was some years ago threatened with demolition when they were building one of the interstates there, but eventually a group of people got together and were able to save or prevent the interstate from going through Bowcatcher Mountain.
Wow.
But the story is that there was a lady who lived in the area who was a servant at Zealandia, and she had a daughter who she loved dearly, and their home caught fire, and the daughter was killed in the fire. And that the mother's spirit still prowls around the bridge in search of her daughter. But it has become a point of point of ritual for local teenagers to a rite of passage to go up and try to summon the spirit of Helen. And they will go up there and call Helen's name. And a number of people have actually done this and ended up with car problems. Sometimes people aren't able to crank their cars. But in the case of one investigator, she went up there and ended up having problems with her car door locks. And she had that problem for about a week afterwards. And eventually she went back and asked Helen to take her curse off of the car doors locks.
Oh, my goodness.
And her car was didn't have any problems from there on.
Wow.
But this is a very kind of mysterious place, even though it's off of a major road and right there in the middle of a residential neighborhood.
Wow. You reminded me as I was doing research, and we're going to come back to you. I'm going to get a couple of Will stories, and then Tim's got another one he's going to tell us about. We're going to come back and maybe bounce back and forth for a couple of stories here. But you reminded me, as I was doing research, I was watching a video, well, it reminded me two things. First thing, saw a group of teenage girls in the car going out to their Crybaby Bridge and da-da-da-da-da. They get out and they get on the bridge, and the legend says that if you scream out, "Hey, I killed your baby," then the ghost will show up. And they got out, and one of the little girls run down there and screamed, "I killed your baby." And I had to turn it off. I'm sorry. I mean, if this is all real, and I'm sorry if I'm getting on a soapbox, but if this is all real and that spirit is attached to that bridge that lost her baby, then wouldn't that be the most cruel thing in the planet you could do to that living spirit?
Exactly.
Passed on spirit. I just didn't think that was appropriate. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now. The other thing, whoa, we lost Tim.
Bye, Tim.
He'll be back. Yeah, exactly. That happened to me a couple of times during the fairy show. I was using a mouse I wasn't used to, and I just blinked out a couple of times. And Elizabeth say, "Well, he ate the fairy food, and they took him, you know." And Elizabeth just rolled right on with it. But the other thing, and I don't want to go into this, but I don't want to mention it. The gravity hills, they are connected to the haunted bridges, and in several cases, yep, there Tim's back. He's back. But again, I don't want to go into this because it's probably worthy if it's on show. But the gravity hills, where you park your vehicle, put it in neutral, and it'll roll uphill. If you sprinkle baby powder on it, you'll have baby footprints and handprints. And supposedly, I mean, I've heard of this happening. There's videos all over YouTube. But on one of the videos I was watching, they were at a Crybaby Bridge, a bunch of idiot guys. And I actually made myself sit through the whole 20-minute video, but they had baby powder sprinkled on the rear bumper. And it was like, "Oh, look, there's baby handprints and baby footprints." Now, number one, why would a baby be standing on a bumper that's angled like that? You know, and the footprints are clear. They're not sliding. And number two, they were footprints of the same foot. They were like two right feet. And you expect me to believe this is real, you know, and it was, I don't know if you ever did this in the snow on a car. You put your fist down and make an imprint of the side of your fist, and it looked like a little baby's foot, and then you dot the toes in. Right. That's what it looked like to me. Okay.
One of the videos I've seen debunking that is that it essentially the baby powder settles into fingerprints and handprints and whatever that are already there.
Right? Exactly. That makes sense. And the moving on its own part is actually it is a gravitational anomaly because of your well, let's say it's a visual anomaly where it looks like it's rolling uphill, but it's really not. And I've seen that tested and everything. All right, Will, a couple of your stories.
Okay, so just watching the beginning made me think of this bridge, and it's not in my book, it's not even in Alabama, but
Okay,
it's
that's
probably the
fine.
most famous bridge haunting ever, besides the Tower of London Bridge. The Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Ah,
You know what I'm talking
yep.
about?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
For those that don't, the Silver Bridge was made famous by the Mothman.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1967, they saw him several times before the Silver Bridge ended up collapsing on December 15th, where it killed 46 people.
Right.
And after the bridge disappeared, the Mothman disappeared.
Yep.
Everyone took his presence to be a foreshadowing of something bad that was going to happen.
Yep.
And now it is celebrated by the book The Mothman Prophecies from 1975, which was loosely translated to a movie in the early 2000s, starting after a year. And if you've never been, Point Pleasant hosts a wonderful Mothman festival every year.
Cool. Wouldn't it be
Celebrate
cool to go?
Mothman and the bridge collapse and the Mothman Museum. It's just a smorgasbord of everything paranormal gathered in Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Yeah.
What is really the most haunted bridge that I know. But
that makes sense.
I talk about Hartzell's Crybaby Hollow here in North Alabama. And it's funny because every place I've lived has had a Crybaby Bridge of some type. In Gunnersville, we had one. It was actually called Crybaby Holler, but there was a bridge there. They have the one in Hartsville, which is northwest of Gunnersville in Morgan County. Where I lived in Indiana, we had one. Where I lived in North Carolina, we had one. So pretty much everyone has a haunted Crybaby Hollow bridge. And, you know, one of the big stories you'll find a lot of times is that there was a creek. Native American tribes local to those areas, when they had sick infants, they would take them there and drown them in that creek because they just didn't have food for them. They could not meet the needs of a sick infant in that style of life, and they would drown them in these creeks. And of course, walking to the creeks created trails. And as white people settled, the trails became roads which had bridges across them. And that's one legend you hear all the time. You know, another one that you hear that goes back to when automobiles were just really becoming a thing is they had a wreck on the bridge and the wife dropped the infant in the water and drowned. And the baby haunts the water, or she haunts the creek bed looking for the baby. And actually, all those three legends right there all play song into the Crybaby Bridge in Hartsville, because as it becomes popular folklore, everybody takes something they've heard and adds to it, especially in today's internet age where the story just grows and grows and grows. And, you know, it's funny, everybody knows somebody that had an experience here, but they didn't necessarily have the experience themselves.
Exactly.
And I mean, when I did my book, I had lists of hundreds from across the country.
Oh, I'm sure. And
you can't just list those. But we did look and find a couple of similarities that all these bridges had, pretty much for the most part throughout the country. And there are one-lane bridges over creeks or bodies of water that do appear creepy. I mean, the way the sun falls on them, the trees are grown up, they're unkept, they're out in rural areas. The one you visited probably met that description, didn't it, last night?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
They're in rural areas, which is what I just said. And they attract people who try to add to the legends and scare others with graffiti. Even the book I used in my lore of Crybaby Bridge in Hartsville had pentagrams painted on it, enter at your own risk, spray painted on there.
Yeah.
The one you showed, the person is still here.
Yep.
And that's a great one. But, you know, growing up in Gunnersville, we had our Crybaby Holler. Part of the legend there was if you go park your car and put a Baby Ruth candy bar on your vehicle and leave and come back, and there'll be a bite taken out of it. Well, of course, there's going to be a bite taken out of it. Squirrels love nuts. Nuts
Yeah.
with bars. And that's not to say that people don't have haunting experiences over these bodies of water, but typically it's more folklore that has grown up around different things. Especially, they became much more prevalent as automobile traffic became more and more
Right.
prevalent. Because I can't imagine in the 1800s somebody stopping their wagon to see if baby footprints appear on it.
Yeah. True. True.
But they make great ghost stories, and we love to be scared.
Oh God, yes, that's right.
And it gives teenagers something to go do, to see how scared they can be.
Yep, exactly. Lewis commented in our private chat. Let me share this with you. Somebody in Ohio did the Crybaby Bridge project. Strangeandspookyworld.com Crybaby Bridge project.
Yep, I actually looked at that when I did my book.
Yeah, cool. So that would be a great place to go if you want to dig into some. These are just in Ohio, correct?
Yes.
Yes, the Ohio Crybaby Bridge project. Okay, cool. Well, yeah. Yeah, those of you that are in Ohio, Greg, there's your website. Strangeandspookyworld.com Crybaby Bridge project. All right, we're going to get to Tim's next story that he brought to us, brought to me. And this one has a unique closure to it, Tim.
This one here is actually out of Emporia, Kansas, which is Emporia is only about 45 minutes from where I live. It's not very far away. It's over the Rocky Ford Bridge, or what they call the Bird Bridge. It's just south of the city of Emporia. Rocky Ford used to be one of the places. The Santa Fe Trail actually crossed the state in about 8 different places. Rocky Ford was one of the places that they would take the wagons across. It was shallow enough that they didn't need a bridge, so why they ever put a bridge there, I still don't know. But in the 1970s, there's actually a local minister and his mistress that just happens to be this church's secretary that decide that the best way they can continue their relationship is to murder their spouses. They do this by first they actually ambush the secretary, convinces her husband to go out on a drive in the country roads with them. This would be the 1970s. They're out driving. They come across a minister's car broken down next to the side of a road, and he's up underneath the hood. And when they pull up, he gets out and they shoot the husband and kill him and push his body off into the brush and stuff. And then about 4 or 5 days later, they actually drug his wife, and they take her down to the Bird Bridge, and they put her in the driver's seat of the car, and they push the car off into the river. And when it hits the river, she actually wakes up enough to realize what's going on. She did actually make it out of the car. She winds up drowning right about the edge of the river is where she winds up drowning at. I mean, she's not very far from the shore at all when she winds up drowning. But when you go out to the bridge today, there's a scream that will pierce the air as you're out there during all hours, and they think it's the wife still screaming, trying to get some kind of help. What gets them caught is that somebody discovers the body of the husband out in the field about 3 or 4 weeks after he had disappeared. And at which point the secretary comes clean and tells everything to the local authorities about what's going on. They actually made a movie of this, a made-for-TV movie. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Murder Ordained.
Yep.
Yeah. Because it made national news. It was one of the first times that they could trace, here's a minister that killed his wife and the mistress's husband so they could be together.
I'm sure it's happened before.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. I'd actually found a trailer for that on YouTube, but it was about 3 minutes long of 70s music and and movie acting. So I didn't want to put all of you and our watchers through all that.
I've heard it was not a very good movie either.
But some of the comments were like, "Oh, I love that movie. I'm glad I finally found it." And I was like, I mean, but who's in it? One of the Carradine brothers,
Right.
and
And,
what's his name? King Ralph, and the guy that was on Roseanne. God, my mind's going blank.
John Goodman.
John Goodman was in
Right.
it, and a couple of others.
Yeah, there were several.
There were some big name stars
in there.
but I didn't want to put everyone through that 3 minutes of
Right.
excruciating 70s acting
Right.
and music. All right. Well, I just thought that was a unique closure to another haunted bridge, that they actually made a movie about it. Will, a couple more, then we'll go to Lewis. Again.
Okay. I'm going to reference another book here of mine, Covered Bridges
Excellent.
of Alabama.
Find him on Amazon. You can find his books on Amazon and Lewis's as well.
Yes, and actually, one review of this is the most comprehensive guide to covered bridges available for Alabama. And I did not even write that. They think I might have, but I don't know.
Our own little infomercial here for your books.
Right. Shameless plug.
Yeah, there you go.
So we have several covered bridges here in Alabama. We actually have a covered bridge festival in Blount County every year. A lot of people don't know that because
Wow.
I think of Alabama as being home to a lot of covered bridges. We've actually had a ton over the years, but this one involves Alabama's famous outlaw sheriff, which this is his picture right here.
Yeah.
And you can find out more about him in the book, Alabama Scoundrels. Anyhow, he was a big nuisance to basically Tuscaloosa County. He was the sheriff and abused his powers and ordered people killed. And he was arrested and taken to his own jail. Well, he knows the jail pretty well. First thing he does is escape.
Yeah.
So this happens a couple more times. They take him. He disappears over to Mississippi, where he is eventually arrested again and brought back to Alabama. Well, they'd had enough of him at that time, and basically they quick trialed him and decide he needs to hang for his crime. And they take him out on the Alamucci Bridge, which is right there.
Cool.
I have time to send you pictures ahead of time. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Where they hang him. Now, some say there's two different stories of it. Some say he was hung from rafters inside the bridge. Some say that he was hung from a chinaberry tree that was set just outside of the bridge. But today, you can go through there and hear him hanging, and the crowd cheering or guffawing or whatever they're making from him hanging, and or you can see the chinaberry tree swaying with no breeze.
Oh,
So
wow.
Alabama's Outlaw Sheriff is one of my favorite stories.
Cool.
And
your friend chimed in. Julie said, I remember leaving the Baby Ruth.
Baby Ruth Bridge. Some guns we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
She and I used to hang around for a while and do these kind of crazy adventures.
Oh, cool.
In Gunnersville. And when I was researching the covered bridges in Alabama, I visited every single site that I could. Matter of fact, for every book I've written, I've visited all the sites.
Wow.
But one of the stories of a bridge that is now gone is actually destroyed by fire in the 90s. There was a haunted postman in his wagon that would go across the bridge every day. During his route, he'd gone off the bridge during a very rare ice storm in Alabama, which we actually just experienced here this past week.
Right.
But his wagon had gone off with the horses, and even in the afterlife, he was so intent on doing his job, his wagon would still go across to deliver the post every day.
Wow.
That bridge, the foundation of it is still there. You can actually go. They cut the road off that went to it originally. It was there until the 90s. But you can still get to it today. And it was just a very eerie place to be around.
Yeah.
And this is not necessarily bridge related, but it is automobile related. In Huntsville, they have a place called Hell's Gate. Supposedly, if you drive by there car will come up from behind you and the headlights will chase you down the mountain.
Right.
Well, this is no one of those things you hear in multiple places. That's the Whitesburg Bridge in Huntsville, isn't it?
I got it off a website that said it was Hell's Gate Bridge.
That's not Hell's Gate's not actually a bridge.
Oh.
It's an actual set of big iron gates.
That picture is the Hell's Gate Bridge in Oxford, Alabama.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So you're talking about something different. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Wrong picture. Wrong
Right.
picture.
But I was going to give you a personal experience.
There we go. Go ahead.
Where I grew up in a little town called Claysville, Alabama. We had a very similar story, but it was a cemetery that was built on the side of a mountain. And if you went into the cemetery at night and came out, headlights would chase you down the mountain. So me and my stupid friends, of course, had to do this all the time. And one time we actually had headlights chase us down the road, down the mountain.
Oh, wow.
Then just disappeared.
Holy cow. Who knows?
I'm sure it was someone playing a prank on us.
Yeah.
To my day, that's still one of the unsolved mysteries that I've experienced is like, what happened to them?
Yeah.
Just a little one lane winding country road, basically. Cars don't just disappear off of it. That's my personal experience with these type of stories.
Oh, wow. Cool. Awesome. All right. If you got another couple, hang on to them. I want to get to a couple of his stories before we go to my Crybaby Bridge. So we want to get some more stories from each of you before we move on. Tim, you got any more? Okay.
No, I'm good.
Lewis?
Well, one of the other bridges I'd like to talk about is about as far removed from a Crybaby Bridge as you can get.
Good.
And that is the Sunshine Skyway Bridge in St. Petersburg, Florida. This was a bridge that was built in the early 1950s going across Tampa Bay. And the picture you're seeing here is the first bridge that was constructed. That bridge survived up until about 1980. In May of 1980, early one morning, a heavy fog settled around the bridge, and there was also a heavy storm that came up, and a ship trying to navigate underneath the bridge ended up running into one of the bridge supports.
Oh, wow.
And the bridge proceeded to collapse. There were, I think it was 6 cars, a truck, and a Greyhound bus all plummeted into Tampa Bay. There were about 35 people killed. And of course, because part of the bridge was out, there were actually 2 bridges that ran parallel to each other, each carrying a different lane of traffic. They ended up closing the bridge and tearing down both of those spans and replacing them with the current bridge that is there now, which is a beautiful, magnificent modern bridge. But interestingly, this bridge has also been the scene of a huge number of suicides, and it started shortly after the bridge was built, and people started going to the bridge to jump, and this continued all the way up even after the new bridge was opened. And I discovered in my research a website covering the suicides, and the latest suicide was January of this year. And it has just been announced they are now putting up fencing along the edges of the bridge to prevent people from jumping.
Oh, wow.
But the approach to the original span does remain and has been preserved as a fishing pier. And many people on this fishing pier, especially early in the morning when there is a great deal of fog, have seen a ghostly bus traveling through the air, sometimes with dimmed headlights. And there's even some reports, including You see faces of the people who were aboard the bus peering out the back of the bus. But there's also a story of a ghostly hitchhiker, a girl dressed from the 1970s, and people stopping to pick her up often will have her freak out once they get to the middle of the bridge. In some cases, by the time they leave the bridge, she has fully disappeared. In other cases, when she freaks out, she'll start asking questions like, will Jesus forgive me? And very religiously oriented questions, which make for a much stranger story. But it does seem that possibly there is something about this bridge that perhaps, draws in this negative energy and all of this tragedy. In fact, just before the bridge collapsed in May of 1980, there was a shipwreck right next to the bridge in January of that year, where a Coast Guard cutter was actually struck by another ship in a dense fog, and the Coast Guard cutter sank, taking the lives of several of the people aboard. So it's a very mysterious bridge, and in a lot of ways kind of similar to the Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant, in that this is the scene of a tremendous bridge collapse. But then again, I don't know of any reports of Mothman in that area.
All right. Another story. I'm looking for something.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lewis.
Lee's got to go.
Go ahead, Will.
Lee's got to go. You reminded me of something, a very spectacular haunted bridge, and I'm digging it up while y'all are talking. So keep telling the story.
He talked about the bridge that collapsed after being struck by a barge.
Mm-hmm.
This was another Alabama story that you have to actually get out on a boat to go visit, but it's supposedly very haunted. In 1993, the Bayou Canal Bridge, where the Amtrak train went over the bridge right after it had been struck by a barge and plummeted into the bayou.
That's what I was looking for.
43 people killed.
Mm-hmm.
But supposedly, you can go if you get out there in the boat today, you can still hear the screams of the brakes as the train's conductor sees it coming and just gets on it trying to slow down. But trains don't stop very quickly. And being a retired law enforcement officer, I saw way too many people killed by trains. But yet plummeted into the bayou, and the search and rescue effort was just amazing. And being near Mobile, I thought you should probably know a lot more about it than I did.
Well, that's what I was looking up while y'all were, what Lewis reminded me of. Tim, you got to head out?
I do. So,
well, thank you.
Fun being with y'all.
Good to meet you, Tim.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Lewis. All right. Y'all have a good day.
See you. Thanks so much. Well. Yeah, I was looking for pictures of that Amtrak while y'all were talking. I don't know why I didn't think of this. And the reason I say spectacular, because like Will said, the tugboat did hit the bridge, and that's what caused the derailment. And my father-in-law is an avid fisherman. He's even shows up on the local sports radio fishing show every now and then, talking about fishing, and has his own little bait shop out in the back where he makes custom rods and baits and all kind of stuff like that.
I'm going to visit him next time I'm down there.
There you go. We'll hook you up, man. Buy you baits. But he said he's been there since then, and said that you can hear people crying for help. And I mean, because like you said, there's no way to get there. Either the rail or by boat. There is no road that gets you there. And so technically the only way you get there is by boat, because if you're on train, it's just moving. You go past it, you cross it. But
I somehow feel a strange journey coming on.
Yes.
Yes, we may have to do that because I was just fixing to tell you another strange story about that. And I found a video on YouTube, and it's just this guy sitting in his recliner and turned on a video camera and was telling his story. There's no fancy editing, no nothing. And he has all the details in the video. And again, I should have thought about Bayou Cannot because that's a haunted bridge. I don't know why it didn't even come to me, because I was actually digging into this a couple of months ago thinking I want to do a show about that wreck on the anniversary, which is in, didn't you say is in September?
September 1993.
Yep, September 22nd. And so I was eventually wanting to do a show on it. But anyway, I was watching this guy, and he said he had been a bus driver down in Gulfport, I think it was. And who was running the night shift, late evening, whatever, into the night, a bus route in downtown. And a guy got on the bus and said, "Can you take me on to the bus station?" And he said, "Well, it's not on my route, or that's, it's later on in my route. It's not, I can't do it right now." He said, "But I got to make this train. I've got to get to the train station." I said bus station. "I've got to get to Amtrak station." So the guy looked, the bus was empty. It was a slow night. So he's like, "Hey, what the hell?" So he takes him on to the Amtrak station, and he makes it with minutes to spare and gets on the Sunset Limited. And because he was the last person getting on, he was more toward the back. And the guy said that the bus driver didn't think anything more about it. Finishes his route. He didn't get caught, so he didn't get in trouble, goes home, gets up the next morning, is watching the news and sees all this. And they're interviewing a man who was at the back of the train, who helped pull the injured and dying off of the train. And it was the man that he helped get to the train station.
Wow.
And the point of his video was, what if I hadn't have gotten him there in time? This guy wouldn't have been there to save all those people. So come the anniversary, we'll have to do a show on the Bayou Cannot. All right.
I think we need to get a boat and go out there and do the show live from the scene.
Yes.
Getting Wi-Fi would be a problem.
Okay, pre-recorded.
Yeah, okay, may have to do that. All right, one more story from each of you, and I'm going to talk about my experience at our Crybaby Bridge. Lewis, one more story.
All right. There is a road, or it's actually two roads, north of the small town of Rural Hall, North Carolina. And these roads are Edwards Road and then Payne Road. And these are both roads that for a number of decades have had all types of folklore associated with them. But it seems that this folklore, some of it has been taken piecemeal from other stories, but then kind of added on to some of the folklore that actually does exist in this area. But there is a bridge right along Payne Road, or Edwards Road, excuse me, where people will frequently go out, and you're told that the ritual is to roll down your windows and stick your head out and whistle the tune Dixie. And people will do that, and this ghost will appear.
Wow.
There is a story that several teenagers, a young man and two young women, had gone out there to investigate, and they drove out onto the bridge, turned off their car, and after whistling Dixie, they were not able to get their car started again. They had to push their car off of the bridge, and then it eventually started up. But there's another story with a teenage couple who had gone out there, and they turned their car off, and they opened the window, whistled Dixie, and then there was a storm coming up. So their car was not working. So the young man gets out and goes around the front, looks at the engine, and while he's standing out there, there's a flash of light and a flash of lightning. A moment later, he slams the hood shut, comes running back in, and he's just as white as a sheet. They're able to get the car started and drive off. And so after they drive off, the young man reveals to the young woman that, in fact, he had seen a spirit in that flash of light. Now,
Wow.
the story of this road, the legend speaks of the Payne family as being cruel slave owners. And one of the more gruesome stories is that Mr. Payne, who had a wife and several children, ended up murdering his entire family
Wow.
after he discovered that his wife was cheating on him. And to punish her, he tied her to a chair in the living room. He had each of the children come in and kiss her before he took them upstairs and murdered them.
Sure.
And then, of course, at the end of all of that, murdered his wife.
Yeah.
That story did not happen, but it is taken from a nearby ghost story, the story of the Charlie Lawson murders, where a man in 1921 on Christmas Day shot his entire family to death.
Wow.
And then walked into the woods and shot himself to death.
Huh.
And this was a very well publicized story. And so it's not unheard of that story piecemeal would make it into the folklore of this small town. But there is a gruesome story involving the Edwards family that did live along this road. And the most gruesome element took place in 1951, where a man by the name of Frank Edwards decided to kill himself, and he drove his truck into a shed just off the road and lit a stick of dynamite and laid down in the bed of his truck with that dynamite and blew himself to pieces.
Yeah.
And thereafter, he had a number of siblings, 4 of whom did commit suicide, though not on that property. But over time, that property has become known as being haunted. They believe mostly because of this legend involving the Edwards family, but then, of course, they've added to it, and it makes for just a really fascinating story. And there's enough legend there that there is even a big Facebook group devoted to just this story.
Wow.
On Payne Edwards Road.
Wow.
I'm going to have to check that Facebook group out.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
When you said the couple on there, I was expecting them to drive off, and when they pull to stop and he goes around to open her door, they find a hook on
Yes.
the door handle. I was excited. I'm sorry. We're
Oh.
talking urban legend and myth.
Yes.
All right, Will, give me a couple more, 1 or 2 before we go on to my crybaby bridge.
Okay, I'm gonna close out with, I love urban legends, obviously.
Yeah.
A great urban legend from the South, Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
Pope Lick Monster. The Pope Lick Monster has been described as part goat, part man,
Yeah.
part sheep. Or
Part what?
Part goat, part sheep, and part man.
Part goat, part sheep. Oh, what a combo. Okay.
And he has also been described as sheep squat, a Bigfoot with the sheep heads with horns.
Was this the picture? Was this the same
Yes.
place?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So he lives
Same story.
supposedly either on or under this train trestle that goes over the creek, which is almost in Metro. It's in Metro Louisville, so it's a well-populated area, and it's surrounded by a fence to keep trespassers off of it. But the stories go back to the 1800s. Originally, there was like a harpy that would call for help out on the bridge to lure people out there to be hit by the train. And, legends as they changed over time turned him into this monstrous creature that people would go up there to find, and he would jump down off the bridge to attack people nearby. or he had an axe that he would attack people walking near the bridge. But the reality is it's still an active train bridge. But
Right.
people go out there today looking for the Pope-Lick monster, and in reality get killed by the train. Happened recently as 2018 that people were killed doing a paranormal investigation out there looking for the Pope-Lick monster when a train came by and there's nowhere to go.
Well, that's like, it looks like the train from the train bridge from Stand By Me.
Kind of does, doesn't it?
Hurry, run.
That's where I'm going to close my bridge story out, is with the Pope-Lick monster, because I just can't wait to see a sheep squat. Just saying the name sheep squat really does it for me. And I admit I'm very curious to hear your story of the bridge last night.
Oh, well, like I said, it's nothing spectacular. I just take it, but I've forgotten one that I promised a friend of mine that we'd get to. My friend Roy Pope, he's in Thailand, or I was going to have him on the show. He said, well, that'd be about 2 a.m. his time. And I was like, okay, never mind. But we touched on it earlier, but the Hell's Gate Bridge in Oxford, Alabama. I mean, I promised him we would talk about this. Now, this bridge earned its name. Well, the Oxford Paranormal Society on their website, this is what they put. This bridge has earned its name because it said, and this is similar to what you were talking about earlier, Will, if you stop on the bridge and turn around, the road behind you looks like the fiery gates of hell. And many years ago, a young couple lost their lives on this bridge on a dark night. If you stop on the bridge and turn off all the lights, a member of the couple will get into the vehicle with you, leaving a wet spot on the seat. Now, the bridge was officially closed to traffic in late 05, early 06, when the new road known as the Leon Smith Parkway was built. Let's see. The Oxford Paranormal Society went out there and they placed recorders and webcam, and they didn't really get anything, but they were sharing that picture and the story of the legend behind it. But it just reminded me of looking back behind you and seeing something in your car. Now, did I not put this in? Yeah, there it is. Crybaby Bridge in Saraland is off of Callioca Road somewhere. Let me just say, excuse me, that the exact location is up to controversy, but it is stated that you can see the old plantation, which is, can you see that? Excuse me, the Oak Grove plantation right there in the center of the screen. And it is on Callioca Road. So if you follow Oak Grove Road down, there's Callioca Road. There is a bridge right in this area. As I zoom in, you'll see it. There it is. Across the creek there. Now that's where Lynn and I went last night. Now, I did not do a paranormal investigation. I just took some pictures with my phone. I should have taken them all landscape, but I didn't. And you'll see it's just a plain bridge, nothing fancy. It is about, I'd say, 20 to 30 feet off of the creek. Now, this was the last picture that I took. I do not know where that purple mist came from. It wasn't in any of the other pictures. You know, so it reminded me of what, mine just went blank. Beast of Bray Road. The lady that wrote Beast of Bray Road. When she was investigating, they set up the trail cams. They said that when the deer hide carcass would disappear, there would be nothing but a purple mist. But I don't know if that's paranormal or not. It's just an anomaly in my pictures. But I did have a couple of my apps running. And I wanted to share some of those with you. These are some of the words that showed up. Now, thinking about the legend, I mean, the way some of these work, I don't know if I was influencing or not, but I was there thinking about the legend behind this. Excuse me. Some of those are not spectacular, but look at this. This was an app. Down at the bottom there, it tells you what the app thinks is being said by the spirits. I'm lost. And then here's some more. Now look at this one up top. 6:57, 59 p.m. I was standing on that ledge, which that's where the drop-off is, down to about 25, 30 feet down, when I got that word, hi. I was like, yes, it is. And then, like I said, I'm not asking questions. I just have the device on. There are some that can relate. New moon, malevolent. Those weren't really doing anything, but this one, befriend, lasting. There was a couple that just seemed relevant to me that may not mean anything. I just took screenshots of them all. Take him. There's an unusual one. Vamped. That was odd. And hidden. Legs. Like I said, nothing spectacular, but just some things to make you pause and say, with the legend. I wanted to close out thoughts and suppositions on this show with the definition of bridge. A structure carrying a pathway or roadway over a depression or obstacle such as a river. A time, place, or means of connection or transition. The upper bony part of the nose, the bridge. And the pair of your glasses sits on the bridge of your nose. In musical instruments, on my guitar, it's a piece raising the strings of a musical instrument. And in music theory, it's a passage linking two sections of a composition. And in chemistry, it's a connection that joins two different parts of a molecule. I mean, we're thinking in paranormal terms. Last week and in our fairies show, we talked about Elizabeth Parker mentioned thin places. And Julianne mentioned vortexes last show. We talked about ley lines causing a vortex. And this thought of a bridge being a connection between one side and the other side.
A place of transition.
Exactly. And I think it's just unique thinking about what a bridge really is. It seems, basically logical that the paranormal would take place in the place of transition, in the place of connection, in the place of crossing over. And they normally cross over water. On the Uncovered Paranormal website page on Paranormal Theory, they say some believe the presence of running water can power paranormal activity. The theory is a location with water on the property has the potential for odd happenings because spirits are said to draw energy from electromagnetic fields. Running water naturally produces an electromagnetic field. Think about a mill or a power plant that uses water as its power source. Ghosts basically do the same according to this theory. Now, there's a man named Shane Sorios that they quote, says that he's observed a trend in activity levels of locations, with water flowing through the property. Now, he does state that water isn't a requirement, obviously, nor a guarantee, on the other hand, for paranormal. But he says if there's water there and paranormal activity is reported, the water is likely a candidate. Now, this late morning before we were getting ready, as I was getting ready for the show, the river Styx popped into my brain. And what is the river Styx? It's the dividing line between the earth and the underworld, and you have to cross the river Styx. You have to pay, what's his name? Charon, Charon. If you pay the correct fee, you get across to the underworld. Now, they say if you don't have the correct payment, you wander as a wraith on the side of the river Styx for eternity or for 100 years, depending on who you talk to. So, and that bodies dipped in the rivers receive a gift of immortality. I just the connection there just seemed so unique. All right, final thoughts, Lewis, on Haunted Bridges.
Well, something that you just said made me think of, there is an old theory that, in fact, ghosts cannot cross water. And that theory is connected with the old Gullah idea of hate blue, and the idea of using the color blue, because ghosts cannot cross water, to keep ghosts at bay. So they will often paint the ceilings of front porches this particular color of blue
All
in
over
hopes
Mobile.
to keep. Yes, and it's the same way in Charleston and Savannah and throughout the southern Low Country.
Yeah.
So I think that's really kind of interesting, because it doesn't quite go along with all of these bridge stories, which involve spirits fully crossing the bridges.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, there could be some ghosts that can't cross water and some that can. Like Dagny.
Yes.
Dagny says just about every single show she's on, there is so much we don't know.
Exactly.
And which is why we keep looking into it and we keep taking these strange journeys. Will, any final thoughts on Haunted Bridges?
Well, being much more of a folklorist, the folklore behind Haunted Bridges goes a long way. But if you actually, and I do believe his thoughts on the spirits can't cross water, but we have an entire mythology of creatures that live in the water that try to lure men to their death, that go back to the before recorded history for mankind. And they can take many forms. And if they truly are hauntings, it could be a spirit such as that or a creature such as that that are creating these things that we call hauntings, because that's the way our minds can explain them.
Right. That makes sense.
I've had a great time in here. It's been very informational listening to all you guys.
Well, I think it was awesome. We're going to have you back. But you just reminded me of something. Seems like every show this weekend or this season on Strange Journeys, there's been connections to other shows that we've done. It's like it's all connected. And what you just said, that it could be these other beings, these other, call them mythological creatures or cryptids. Like in our first show this season with fairies with Elizabeth Parker, she talked about a friend of hers called her into her house saying they're having poltergeist activity. And Elizabeth, being an empath and a medium, goes in there and she figures out through her gifts that it was a brownie, a fairy, and not a poltergeist at all. And so that's another thing that we have to consider. It could be a water sprite. I mean, we touched on that in the fairy show, and so who knows? As I close out this show, we keep coming back to this as well. Where do we stand? Are you a believer? Are you a skeptic? Are you an open-minded believer? Are you an open-minded skeptic? Are you a non-believer? And wherever you categorize yourself is how you receive these stories. If you're, a non-believer, then they're just folk tales and stories. And if you're a believer, then every single one of them are ghosts. They're all paranormal, and which I'm an open-minded skeptic, so I see a good healthy dose of all of it.
Can I say something about that?
Certainly.
So when I did my ghost tours, I would always start out, raise your hand if you believe in ghosts. And I said, raise your hand if you don't believe in ghosts. We got drugged here by somebody that does. And I'm not here to change your view on the paranormal, mythological, or anything. Because if you believe in ghosts, there's nothing I can do to change your mind. If you don't believe in ghosts, there's nothing I can do to change your mind. But this is about keeping up the storytelling. This is about talking about history and all the different things that come before us. And more than that, it's good to scare yourselves. It's good to have fun.
Yep.
And it's good to just explore.
Well, that's what I said at the beginning of the show. We're just here because we enjoy. This is fun. We have fun with it. We enjoy talking about it. But like my dad, before he passed away, he was reading a book on the H.L. Hunley. He was digging into history. And, the Hunley being the first submarine ever built that was used in battle, was built in Mobile. And Lewis, we need to talk because we need. I was telling Will before you got on. Next time y'all are in Mobile, we got to go visit Boynton Oak and see if we can figure out what the hell's going on. Which tree is it? But also, the building that Hunley was built in is still standing, but I'm trying to figure out exactly where. Some sources say it's up on Royal Street. Yours puts it, I'm trying to remember where.
I put it on the campus of University of South Alabama.
Right. And it was connected to the Siemens Bethel. But we got to figure out which one it is because I'd really like to know because that's what I was saying. My dad was getting involved in historical subjects before he died. Julie said, love the show. Very interesting. Thank you for being here, Julie. As we close out, just remember, if you visit a Crybaby Bridge, don't leave your car.
Don't turn it off.
Don't turn it off. Don't leave the car. Just drive slowly across the bridge and go on your merry way. All right. Coming up in 2 weeks is, let's see. Coming up in 2 weeks is Elizabeth Parker. She'll be back with us. And I sure appreciate y'all being here. It's time to go, folks.
I don't think you're done yet. The thing's off, but I think we're still.
All right, 2 weeks, guys. We want to thank Will over there and Lewis for being here with us again. We're going to have both of you back. You know that. Remember to check out their books, Mobile's Haunted Alabama, Southern Spirit Guide, and Alabama Lore, and your other one on Covered Bridges. And thank y'all so much for being. Oh, one more comment. Greg said, I'm a believer there's many inexplicable things that happen to say they just don't exist. The truth. Yes, you're right, Greg. The truth is out there somewhere in the middle. Guys, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Elizabeth Parker, Fairies Tales 2, Leprechauns. See you then.
Thanks.